Hello, I'm Movie Hanger, and this is the thriller, Girl in the Box. The movie is based on real horrific events.
Answer me when I speak to you. I said, is that it?
At night, in the wilderness, a car stops. A man named Cameron Hooker gets out, opens the trunk, and asks his wife Janice to help. Janice, nervously clutching a rosary with a cross, responds that she can't help. Cameron says that she can't refuse because she's also involved. Together, they take a woman's body wrapped in a plastic bag out of the trunk. They grab a shovel and drag the body into the forest. Cameron buries the body while Janice stands timidly, trying to pray silently. By morning, they finish their deeds and get into the car. A satisfied Cameron says the job is done and they can relax. He blames the victim, saying it was an accident because she was told not to scream. Cameron makes Janice agree, and the couple drives away. The scene shifts to Northern California, May 19, 1977. A pretty girl is hitchhiking. She has been waiting for a long time, but no one picks her up. Finally, a car approaches with Cameron and Janice Hooker inside. They ask where the girl is heading, and upon learning, Cameron says they're going the same way. In the car, Janice converses with the hitchhiker, named Colleen, who reveals she has traveled across the country by hitchhiking to attend a friend's birthday. Colleen admits that nobody is expecting her, and her arrival is meant to be a surprise. Stopping at a gas station, Colleen goes to the restroom. Meanwhile, Cameron takes a strange wooden box out of the trunk and places it on the back seat. Colleen notices birds flying oddly, but does not consider it a sign of anything. The journey continues, and the hookers suggest a quick detour to see some local ice caves, assuring it won't take long. Colleen has no choice but to agree. The car drives into a remote area and stops. Everyone gets out of the car, and Colleen grows apprehensive when she sees no caves. Janice claims the caves are nearby, just a short walk away. Suddenly, Cameron grabs Colleen from behind, holds a knife to her throat, and orders her not to scream. He handcuffs her, blindfolds her, inserts a gag, and ties her to the car. He then places her head inside the suspicious wooden box. He disguises the girl by covering her with various rags. The hookers bring Colleen to their small house. Cameron leads the frightened girl into the basement, shackles her to chains hanging from a beam, undresses her, and brutally punishes her with a whip, forcing his wife to watch. After satisfying his sadistic inclinations, Cameron immediately makes love to his wife. After that, he again locks Colleen's head in a box and leaves her alone in the basement. Colleen wonders why it is specifically her. Cameron reassures his wife that once they are done playing, he will release Colleen. She won't be able to expose them since she doesn't know where she is, and essentially, they haven't done anything terrible to her. He leaves for his errands, and Janice is left alone, praying. She hears Colleen crying, takes a rifle, and goes down to the basement. Janice frees Colleen from the box and talks to her. Colleen says she is cold, wants to go home, and won't tell anyone if Janice lets her go. When Cameron returns home, he sees his wife eating chips and listening to music. He goes down to the basement with a bedpan in hand, and Colleen is still there. Cameron threatens her with punishment if she screams. He removes the gag and gives her some water and bread, then again torments the girl with a whip. Meanwhile, Janice is upstairs, listening to this horror and suffering. Nevertheless, in front of her husband, Janice behaves calmly. Before sleep, she says she is afraid because she believes that Colleen will go to the police if released. Cameron says then they will keep her for themselves. He reassures his wife, reminding her of their wedding vows, of love, and accepting her husband as he is. Cameron says that as long as Colleen is here, he won't have to hang Janice and do the same things to her. Janice agrees, taking a promise from Cameron not to make love to Colleen. Cameron constructs a box, more like a coffin, in which Colleen will now spend almost all her time. To keep from going mad, Colleen convinces herself it's not happening to her, repeating that she is not here. This calms the girl, and she has a vision. She sees images of birds, her family, how her father offered her a bus ticket, but she insisted on hitchhiking. She falls into panic again. Meanwhile, her parents find out that Colleen has not been home for a long time at her rented apartment. They are worried and go to the police. A reluctant, overweight cop takes their report, saying that she is an independent young woman, 20 years old, and she can do whatever she wants, since there are no signs of a crime. It seems the police are not keen on diligently tackling this issue. A little more time passes. Janice comes to Cameron's workplace, saying she came from the doctor and she is going to have a baby. Cameron is not very pleased with this news. Janice says that they need to get rid of Colleen, as such things cannot happen around a child. She also states that it has been 6 months since Colleen was taken. Cameron replies that it is not possible to let Colleen go now, as any possible investigation could harm them and the baby. Another 3 months pass. The landlord says he needs to fix the stove in the hooker's basement and promises to to come soon. Cameron reads an article in a magazine and gets an idea. He goes down to the basement and forces Colleen, whose eyes are no longer blindfolded, to read the article. It states that there is a company in America involved in human trafficking. The company is extensive and always pursues its victims as well as their families. Cameron says he is part of this organization called The Company, and if Colleen does anything, the company will deal with her and her parents. Cameron cleverly uses the scars from Janice's recent arthritis removal surgery, presenting Janice as another former victim kidnapped by the company. Frightened, Colleen believes everything he says. Cameron explains that he now has to pay the company $1,500 for Colleen, and Colleen must sign a certain contract. The girl signs the document under threats. Cameron puts a collar on her, assuring that it is a constantly active tracking device. Now she must respond to a name. Her new name is Kay. She also has to call Hooker master and follow all orders. Colleen complies without protest. She is made to wash the floors. She finds a Bible and tries to read it, but Janice quickly takes the book away and overturns Colleen's bucket. Several more months pass, and the landlord persistently asks to be let into the house to check the furnace for insurance purposes. Cameron has to move. In the new house, Janice gives birth right on the floor, while Colleen, locked in a box, has to listen to her scream. When it's all over, Cameron releases Colleen and introduces her to his daughter Amber. Colleen now voluntarily and obediently climbs into her box on command, having resigned herself to her life. Nearly 2 years have passed since the kidnapping. Janice drops a fork on the floor and accuses Colleen of losing it. She frightens Colleen by saying she will be handed over to a company, and Cameron punishes the girl with a whip. Janice finds the fork, but now all she can do is pray, as she cannot stop the punishment. Cameron believes that Janice is jealous of him towards Colleen, and this could become a problem. Cameron frightens his captive with a story that the company caught one runaway and amputated her limbs, deprived her of her tongue and eyes. So Colleen is actually lucky. The girl not only helps around the house, but is also taken on various errands, like grocery shopping. One day, Cameron takes Colleen to chop wood, and they have a more or less normal conversation.
What's up?
Cameron promises to let the girl write a letter home, but then he misses the log and hits his leg with the axe. He is in a lot of pain, and Colleen could try to escape, but chooses to stay and helps Cameron. Janice continues to be jealous, and Cameron, trying to somehow bring the women closer, decides to arrange a threesome. Janice runs away and demands that Cameron put Colleen in a box and never let her out. Another 4 years pass since the kidnapping. Colleen now lives in a box, coming out only to drink water and eat scraps. She sees Amber, and she has already grown up. Colleen realizes that she has lost track of time and doesn't even know how much time has passed.
That's Amber? But she's grown up.
One day, the Hookers leave with their daughter, leaving Colleen alone in the box with an air vent leading outside the house. A heavy rain starts, and Colleen's box begins to fill with water. However, this is just a hallucination from the heat. Nevertheless, frightened, Colleen starts kicking one of the walls of the box, and it breaks. When Cameron comes back, he sees the broken box, and at first thinks that Colleen has escaped, but then finds her in the bathroom, clutching the Bible. She says she was very thirsty. Cameron reads a quote from the Bible to the girl: "Slaves, obey your earthly masters." A bit more time passes. Cameron tells Janice that since she won't allow herself to be whipped, he will have to take Colleen out of the box. When his wife asks, he says that he will probably make love with Colleen because the Bible does not forbid having multiple wives. Cameron takes Colleen out of the box and introduces her to his daughter again. Realizing where things are headed, Janice, in her husband's absence, lets Colleen out of the box, and they study the Bible together, finding the passage where one wife allows her husband to sleep with a slave woman. 6 years pass. Cameron is happy surrounded by 2 women. He even promises the slave to make her his second wife and says he trusts her. She asks to see her family, but Cameron replies that the company won't allow it. Colin goes to church with Janice and Amber. Meanwhile, Janice almost becomes a second slave. Her husband also punishes her for disobedience. A few more months pass, and Cameron begins to trust Colin so much that he tells her she can go home, but before that, she must pass a test. For this, she needs to take a shotgun, point it at herself, and pull the trigger. Colin dies, and that's where the movie ends. Just kidding. The girl manages the task, and Cameron takes her to her parents. Previously, Colin had written a letter, so her arrival was not a surprise. The family is happy about their daughter's return, and she introduces Cameron as her boyfriend. Cameron leaves, and the sister looks suspiciously at the departing car. She tries to find out something from Colin, but she evades the questions. The sister believes something is wrong, but the parents think that Colin just joined a cult, and further questioning might harm and scare her off. The sister doesn't stop trying to talk to Colin, but she doesn't reveal anything. Eventually, Cameron Cameron takes her back, after taking photos where they both hug like lovers. At home in bed, Cameron tells Colin he plans to take her as his wife, and Janice will get used to it over time. Janice, who arrived earlier from town, overhears this conversation and dislikes it. The next day, Janice leaves home with Amber. She argues with Cameron, promising to tell everything. In her absence, Cameron lashes out at Colin, driving her into a newly dug space under the barn and leaves to look for Janice. Meanwhile, Janice prays in church, but then returns home and frees Colin. Janice says that Colin must leave, and when she replies that she doesn't want to, Janice tells her that there was another girl before her. They caught her like Colin, but she never stopped screaming, so they buried her in the forest. Janice says she prays every day but no longer believes in forgiveness. She drives Colin to the bus stop and tells her that Cameron was never in the company. Colin leaves on a bus, while Cameron cries alone at home. Above the bus, the strange flock of birds flies again. From the credits, we learn that Cameron was sentenced to 104 years in prison, while Janice was granted immunity for testifying against her husband, as it was she who turned him into the police. The body of the other captive was never found, so no murder charges were filed. Colin's abduction lasted 7 years and several months. The girl believes she survived, thanks to her faith. That's the end of the movie. Be sure to leave comments and like. See you soon. Oh, also, fix this, please. Hit that subscribe button for me.